Lower. Jets versus 49ers. Brock versus Rodgers. Saleh versus his old team. Brew versus himself. QB comparison. Rodgers, his last healthy year. I didn't do any tricks here. Versus Purdy's last healthy year. Those are the statistics. Brock Purdy leading in every statistical category. Rodgers with the lead in podcast appearances. Brew, do you have more faith in Rodgers or Purdy?
I'm shocked that you guys think this is a struggle for me.
Well, they're two of your favorites.
I just bring cogent analysis. You guys are writing off Aaron Rodgers. I'm just saying, with those weapons, he's motivated. He could have a really nice season.
Mm-hmm.
But in this question,
thank you.
Brock Purdy all day, all night.
Thank you.
All right? He's got the better weapons. He's got the better play caller. And look, Nick and I disagree on this. I think Brock Purdy's just going to keep improving. At least, I think this is going to be his best year. Mm-hmm. He's only been playing for a year and a half. He's going to be more comfortable in Shanahan's offense. He's got, he obviously must be a very good leader because the veterans have bought into him. But I think he's going to become even more of a leader. He's not only had very good regular seasons, not only broke, the yardage record for a historic franchise with Montana and Young, but he's actually proven to the vets and the guys on his team, I can get you to the Super Bowl and actually play pretty well. All right? And so I think Brock Purdy's going to have a great game. Rodgers, I think there's going to be a little bit of a slow start. He doesn't typically, he's 0-4 in the playoffs against San Francisco. 2 of his last 3 eliminations from the playoffs have come against the Niners. So, and that's obviously a very good defense. So I don't know that this will be a fantastic game for Rodgers.
Blowout City alert. Whoop, whoop. Hubs, I'm sorry, we should have gotten the sirens. We're on blowout alert. Opening 5 games for the 49ers last year. Steelers 30-7. Rams, they still got the win, but you know how that goes. Giants 30-12. Cardinals 35-16. Cowboys 42-10.
Okay.
I think it's going to get ugly. And did you know, probably, that Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown for 300 yards in his last 23 games?
Wow. That is crazy.
How much of
and
this
last year, there was only 2 quarterbacks who threw for 300 yards against 49ers defense. It was Patrick Mahomes in overtime in the Super Bowl and Kirk Cousins. That's it. Everybody else under 300. So I do not think that Aaron Rodgers is going to break this streak and have a great game throw for 300 yards. I think we're on blowout alert.
Can I ask so quickly?
Sure.
How much of this is your anti-Jets bias? Because that's always baked into your Aaron Rodgers takes. You're never going to give him credit because you don't like the Jets.
It totally exists, but there's a firewall. Okay. There's a firewall between my anti-Jets bias and just facts that Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown for 300 yards.
It also, in Wild's defense, the anti-Jets bias didn't wake up one day and be like, you know what? The team that I'm going to go after is the Jets. They earned it.
They're bad.
They lost all benefit of the doubt. We didn't even talk about it. That this week we found out, and it leaked, that they were like, guys, I got a plan. Let's make Nat Hackett the puppet offensive coordinator and bring in a real offensive coordinator. We'll let Nat Hackett keep the title, but someone else will be running the offense. And then they couldn't land that plane, and so now they still have Nat Hackett, and he's humiliated in front of the whole world. Because they're not a well-run operation. So as far as what Bruce said, I happen to think Brock Purdy's Super Bowl performance is way overrated.
It wasn't bad.
No,
it was good. Would you say good?
Yeah. I think it was as good as one can perform in a game where there were 3 separate times he could have won in the game and didn't come through.
Okay, I'm going to let the rest of this clip play, but we have to highlight Nick right here. He just admitted that there was three different times that the Kansas City Chiefs could have lost the Super Bowl if Brock Purdy did something, I guess, slightly better than whatever he did. That is proof, as we said yesterday, because Nick acts like there's no competition to the Kansas City Chiefs. And he talks about how amazing the Kansas City Chiefs are and how they're able to win this Super Bowl and this, that. Nick Wright does not think that Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, okay? And yet he still thinks that Brock Purdy and the 49ers could have won that Super Bowl on 3 different instances throughout that game. Therefore, if the Kansas City Chiefs actually faced a good quarterback in Nick's eyes, the Chiefs would have lost that Super Bowl. Seems kind of interesting to me, isn't it?
If that Chiefs defense, if we really want to give the flowers to the Chiefs defense, then Brock is moving the ball and gets to overtime. And I think you have
He played better than the two-time MVP against that defense, obviously. Lamar.
Okay. Oh, yeah. No. He did play better than Lamar against the defense. I'm not trying to
also
argue
the Jets
about the Super
defense
Bowl.
is not going to be the Chiefs defense.
I tend to agree with that, even though I do think the Jets defense will be good. But my answer, even given my long-standing kind of skepticism of Purdy, is also Purdy. And it is because even if I doubt Purdy's, arm talent and athleticism and a lot of things I think put a hard ceiling on the Niners, he is not going to be a problem for them. He off the field. He is not going to be a distraction. And people think that I don't like Aaron because of what he says on this litany of podcasts, the latest of which he was on, I think, today, or at least was spread today, with 2 hours with Tucker Carlson talking about everything in the world. Forget what anyone thinks of it. Just pick another quarterback. If Josh Allen was just regularly talking about things that are wildly controversial in any group setting, we would say, well, how's that going to land in the locker room? If you ask 50 random people what they think of hot button issues and you are strident and obnoxious about it, does that lead to being a galvanizing force? The damn Chiefs kicker just gave a speech that I know is polarizing. I happen to not vibe with it. I know a lot of people do it. We don't have to get into it. As the kicker, I don't like it. I'm like, gosh darn it, man. That's going to create a little bit of locker room But he's the kicker at least. Now, you're the quarterback. I think it's actually bad for the football team.
I agree with you generally. But in this case, they seem to really love Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. If it's only because we're a disastrous franchise and he's coming in as our savior, this Hall of Fame quarterback.
I agree with that for the now. But if he's healthy and they're mediocre, they're 3-3. And he's popping off about the election that just happened.
All right, well, we're just kind of talking about nonsense right now. Let's actually focus on the topic at hand. First off, to what Nick Wright is saying about being, not galvanizing the troops or being divisive in the locker room, we know that that's 100% nonsense and BS. How do we know this? Because the Packers and the Jets locker room and players all over the league, both past and present, all universally praise and support Aaron Rodgers again and again and again and again. You can't find anyone to say anything positive about Russell Wilson, who doesn't say anything, publicly that would be remotely controversial. He's not going on podcasts with Tucker Carlson or whoever. And yet Aaron Rodgers does all that, and yet everybody loves him. Kind of interesting. So this idea that he's now an issue in the locker room is nonsense and made up of nothing. Clearly, Nick Wright politically does not agree with Aaron Rodgers. And because of that, he sees that as a problem. When in reality, I'm pretty confident that a lot of Aaron Rodgers' beliefs are probably closer to what a lot of other people feel within that locker room. Maybe not nationally over the whole country, but within the locker rooms, I bet you a lot of players did not want to take that thing that everyone made them take. Some of that medicine. I can guarantee it. Okay? You have some players that were like, sure, whatever, and you have other players that were like, no. I guarantee you that a lot of players in that locker room, like a Joe Rogan, a lot more than, insert any other mainstream media network. So this idea that whatever Aaron Rodgers is saying is doing is somehow an issue, it's not true. To the mainstream media it is, because he's counter to the mainstream media, so that makes their head explode. And again, I'm trying to think of how I can like talk about these things without making them political, because I really do not want them to be political. But it's the same thing of how, I'm just going to say left and right, or no, let's not say left and right. Let's say A and B, okay? When A is talking about something politically, the B media looks at that and says, that's insane. No one likes this. They're a monster. What are they saying? When in reality, you have the whole army of people who support A. But B looks at it as saying, no, this is a disaster. This is going to be the end of A. And it's like, no, because A has an army of followers. And same thing with A saying it about B. Right? That's why everything is so divisive. Both sides think that the other side is insane, and how anyone could ever believe whatever the other party's saying. When in reality, they have to acknowledge, well, a lot of people feel this way. A lot of people do. So that's what I feel as though Nick Wright is losing sight of. Nick Wright thinks whatever his personal views are of whatever these issues are is insane, and he doesn't realize that a lot of people feel that way, whatever it may be. And to be very clear, I have no idea what Aaron Rodgers has said recently, because I can't emphasize this enough. I do not care. I do not get my political information. I do not get my ideological perspective from Aaron Rodgers or anyone else in the media like that. I do not care. So I have no idea. Maybe he said something very controversial. I have no idea, and I do not care. You can let me know in the comments below if you do, and if it is something maybe bigger than I realize, but I'm not even going to Google it. I'm not going to watch any other YouTube videos about it, because I do not care. But I am confident, based off my knowledge of some of his opinions, of what I've heard in the past, unfortunately, just because it's impossible to avoid, I'm confident that a lot of people will agree more with him. I don't want to say that more people agree with him, but more than people realize will agree with him. Even though the mainstream media, and so all the people that are writing the articles and conducting the interviews and on TV are like, no, right? This is very like 2016-esque, where it was like, that guy's never going to win. That's insane. It's going to be a blowout. Ooh. Actually, a lot of people seem to like that guy. That's, I don't know how to make sense of that. And yet they still can't make sense of it. So I think that is what's pulling down Aaron Rodgers so much. And it's unfortunate that we can't talk about, like, who do we have more faith in, Rodgers or Purdy? Because that wasn't an actual football conversation right there. That they briefed, they brushed past it. And so I'll quickly talk about what I think from a football perspective. And let's just anger both 49ers fans and Jets fans, because I'm going to go in the middle. And so no matter what I say, everyone's going to yell at me. But listen, there's the argument that when you have like a newer offensive line, that a lot of it has to do with chemistry, and it's a little bit harder to develop, and that's where the Jets are going to be. And now you're going up against a great defense, and it's week 1, and defenses are already typically, when you have a really good offensive coach and you have a cohesive unit, they can take advantage of the defense more than, although, quite honestly, I hear both sides of it. Depending on who you talk to, some people say that the defense lacks behind the offense, and other people say that the offense lacks behind the defense. So, but I guess the argument is that when you have a great all-time offensive coordinator or head coach or just offensive mind, that they can take advantage of the defense earlier on the season. I don't know, honestly. I think it really depends, because it's a lot harder to kind of get that chemistry and timing down, but it's not that hard to get the physical bruntness of the defense down. So if anyone has a stronger opinion on whether they think the offense is ahead of the defense in the beginning of the season, let me know, because I really don't have strong feelings either way. But that is the argument that I heard, and that's why that, people are saying that the 49ers will be able to really take advantage of the Jets, because their offense won't be able to fire at all cylinders, because they don't have that great offensive core yet. And then you have the Shanahan, who will be able to take advantage of the defense. I don't think that this will be a blowout. I think this has potential to be a really good game. I think Aaron Rodgers is more than equipped and ready to handle this moment. But we've known Aaron Rodgers have been blown out and have had some rocky starts in the beginning of the season, and that's in his prime. So it's not out of the realm of the possibility. Like, my concern is that if they do lose, that people are going to use that as like a see, I told you so. I told you so. And listen, the 49ers might go to the Super Bowl again. So it's just like, okay, right? Like, it doesn't mean that the Jets are going to be this terrible team. But in terms of the question at hand, Purdy versus Rodgers, I think it's going to be a very equal game. I don't think we're going to see Purdy ball out and be on a league of his own, and you're going to see Aaron Rodgers in a wheelchair and eyeglasses, you know, and like a little sweater and a fleece blanket over his lap, like he's just like this old man being wheeled off into the sunset. I think you're going to see moments of both quarterbacks looking great, and then other quarterbacks, and then the other moments where the quarterbacks look like they're super rusty because it's week 1. And they're going to be like, oh, that will come a time. Purdy knows he can't make that throw normally, but, you know, that's what happens in week 1. And they'll say the same thing about Aaron. Yeah, you know, wow, it's pretty great to see Aaron really air one out. You know, it seems like his rhythm is going pretty well, but, you know, it does take time to get the timing back. Like, you're going to hear those generic comments, right? So I think trying to predict of who do you have more faith in, of Rodgers versus or Purdy in week 1, this is the tough thing about talking about football months before. What is this game? September 9th. And so we're literally 4 months away. It's like, what are we talking about here? You know, like it is tough because we all want to talk about football. We all love football so much. And I'm all for the hypotheticals. Some people don't like the hypotheticals. I love the hypotheticals. I don't mind saying, if we put Purdy on this team, what would happen? If we put Aaron on that team, what would happen? I love it. I really don't care. It's fun to me. But in terms of like this week 1 matchup, who are we going to have more faith in? The reality is we have no idea. I would not be surprised if the Jets steamroll the 49ers. That they're like, we are legit, we are healthy, we are ready to go, let's go. And everyone goes, wow, it seems like I could see Khan say, Aaron Rodgers looks focused and alive and inspired. Look at him now. And look what Jordan Love had a really bad week 1. Did the Packers make a mistake of letting Aaron Rodgers go too soon? Right? And then if Purdy plays a bad game, it's Purdy has just never been that guy, is he? We've been saying this, guys, for the last couple of seasons. He's not that good. And now flip it around. Purdy balls out and Aaron Rodgers plays kind of okay, but not great. Aaron Rodgers looks washed. What did you expect from a 40-year-old quarterback recovering from Achilles tendon surgery? I told you Brock Purdy was a great quarterback. He was a play away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The 49ers are legit. Like, so it's just like we can spin these things any direction we want. And they both will make sense, no matter how we want to say it. So that's why it's just like, for me in this type of question, and this was not the answer that I was expecting myself to give, quite honestly, but it was just like, I think there's the potential for both quarterbacks to ball out. I think it's a fun matchup. I would have liked to see them play each other maybe like a few weeks later in the season when everyone's like a little bit more settled and whatnot, because I do think that there's a significant advantage to the 49ers because they do have majority of their team, right? Like they do know who their team is. They do know their offense. They have everything all mapped out. The Jets have added new pieces that they have to get going. They have the quarterback who hasn't played for a whole season is now, recovered. Like there's a lot more moving parts. So if I had to pick, I would say I'm leaning more towards the 49ers because they should more likely be able to hit the ground running and pick up where they left off from last season, where the Jets kind of have to start from new. And so it just wouldn't shock me either if the 49ers win this game pretty convincingly, because I do think that the Jets are kind of set up to fail, so to speak. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys think? Who do you have more faith in, Rodgers or Purdy? And what do you think about Nick's whole rant about Rodgers being a problem because of his opinions within the locker room, even though the locker room his entire career has universally supported Aaron Rodgers? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.